Why am I always the dumbest person in every show, JF? Everyone's like, I got a PhD, and I'm just like,
yeah, come on, it's the first time we have 2 PhDs on the show, I think.
Yeah.
I don't have a PhD. I only have a Bachelor of Arts degree.
Ooh, so you lose. No, I'm just joking. But you were saying to me that in the past there were races, however, that has stopped essentially, right? Something along those lines.
Yes, there were. There about 50,000 years ago, there were 3 or 4 races. We know of 3, but we have evidence of a 4th, which we don't know about. Definition of a race, which is a subspecies.
How do you define a subspecies, or do you define a race?
Well, a race is basically a domesticated subspecies.
A domesticated, so there are no races in any other animal species.
As long as they're mostly domesticated, yes, we use them the nomenclature of a race. For example, race of dogs, race of cats, race of pigeons, race of rabbits, race of sheep. You can use that. Race of horses, not the race itself, but the race of horses, for example.
So removing the
there are no wild
animals.
Wild animals that are called races of animals.
Yeah. So the domesticated aspect is not important. I'm looking for your definition of race or subspecies. I don't care about the domesticated aspect. How do you define a subspecies?
Subspecies is quite simple to define. Even Wikipedia has it. It's just the subspecies. It's basically I'll even read it from so everyone can understand. Wikipedia has it correctly. It's basically a subdivision of a species.
All right,
using the binomial or taxonomy, the binomial classification, scientific classification of all living things.
Okay, and what observation justifies adding a subspecies? What justifies adding a subdivision, as they say?
Because they are just significantly different, that they have just enough characteristics that can even provide. Let me wait a second. They are divisions between species that are different enough that even breeding between them can be slightly difficult.
That is not true, sir.
That is factually true, yes.
No, the subspecies threshold is not reached by reproductive incompatibility. The only reproductive incompatibility affecting taxonomy is at the species level.
Yes, they are recognizable phenotypical differences.
All right, I'm glad we're going there. Now we're talking about phenotypical difference and not reproductive incapability and not domestic.
It's part of it.
All right, now talking about this phenotypic difference. Do you perceive a phenotypic difference between Asians and Black people?
No.
Are you blind?
Not enough. No. There's not enough difference. And I'll give you the example of the San people. They have all the characteristics of Asians and Black people, for example.
They have all the characteristics of Asians. Black people have all the characteristics of Asians.
No, not Black people, the San people.
Not Black people. And by saying not Black people, you just admitted that there is a phenotypic difference between Black people and Asians.
Black is the color of the skin. That is
not enough to make they differ in other ways. For example, I saw one of your videos and you found a cranium. You found a cranium on an article and you said, this cranium belongs to the N category, but I cannot say the word. What was the word starting with N? What was the word starting with N that you couldn't say, Mr. Castrello?
Call me Carlos, man. No need to be angry. It's Carlos. My name is Carlos Rodriguez. And there's no need to be angry. The color of the skin is not enough to provide on humans. Is not enough to provide a race.
Who says that?
Biology, anthropology.
Biology.
latest. I have in fact, I even have an article that was published last year that actually shows that, because every human on Earth has 3 genes. If you want to go genetic, has 3 genes that govern skin color. They are expressed differently between them, between all of the groups on Earth, all the ethnic groups, you could say, but they all have them. If they all have them, that means that there is one subspecies of humans left on Earth. And I'll even
so you recognize that you just recognize that there were 3 genes that differ across the human population that determine an observable phenotypic characteristics.
That is not what I'm saying. I'm saying that we all have them. Every human on Earth has those 3 genes.
But why am I white, and why is there people black out there, and why are there Asians, and why are their babies Asian too?
Because that's a lot of factors that come into being. There's multifaceted factors. For example,
it's a multifaceted factor that makes an Asian woman makes Asian baby.
You can have yes, it is. Yes, actually, that is.
So if I bring you to an hospital where there's a line of white women and black women, what is the percentage of chance that you expect them to put out an Asian baby?
None. There's none. Absolutely none.
Absolutely none. And therefore, you recognize that there are irritable traits that differ across what we tend to call races.
But that's not a races. They're not races. They're just within the variability of the human subspecies Homo sapiens sapiens.
So I don't even understand what you're saying at this point. Are you saying that white women do not give birth to white babies that are phenotypically different from Asians?
Not saying that at all. Nope. Not saying that at all.
So you're saying that the difference between whites and Asians is not enough for you to create a subspecies?
No, I'm not saying that it's not enough for me. It's not enough for the actual biology to create a different subspecies.
All right, let me show you here a little article. This is by Rosenberg. 2 articles, actually. These show that if you go along the race lines and you sequence people's gene, you get clustering in human population. This means that the DNA of these people tell you that they are from Asia, that they are from Africa, that they are from Western Europe. How do you explain this if you refuse to say that the human species is divided into subdivisions that differ genetically? This is a biologist who did that.
They don't differ.
Who are the biologists that you claim say race don't exist?
They don't. They don't exist at the moment.
They don't exist at the moment.
Nope.
But you just recognize that by your definition of subdivisions, there were differences in the human population that are phenotypically observable, genetically caused, and you don't want to acknowledge this as being subdivisions of the human species. Are you playing on words, sir?
No, I'm playing on actual facts, because that is within the actual variability of our subspecies, Homo sapiens sapiens.
Okay, fact, so there...
study that shows that there is neutral genetic diversity between humans at the moment.
That is not true. There is not neutral genetic diversity. There are different amounts of genetic diversity in subpopulations of humans. I'm going to show you another article. This article shows that there is a 1.6-fold increase in a particular type of mutation in European populations. This is not observed in Asians and not in blacks. This is a genetic difference in the rate of mutations that occur to DNA. There are differences in the way genes copy themselves in different human populations.
Let me find it. Nope, that's actually not correct, because, in fact, we're getting ahead of ourselves. I'll show you the neutral variability. I'll post it in here. Study that indicates that was due to a bottleneck in our genome that happened about 70,000 years ago. Do you recognize that?
All right, there was a bottleneck. So what? People still differ, and they still differ based on their genes. The reason why a black baby comes out of a black vagina is genes.
No, it's not. It's because of sex.
It's because of sex, and sex is the
Yes.
combination of genes. Are you aware of that?
Yes, I am. But if you have a lightus, in fact, Africans are so very. We won't even go to Africans. Let's go to Europeans, because Africans are always used. Okay, the variability between a Portuguese person and a Laplander is visible, is it not?
What's a Lapland? I'm sorry, what is it?
People that live in northern Finland and Norway and Sweden.
Okay,
Right.
well, I don't know these people. I'm not used to seeing them, so I don't know if
okay.
they're different.
Then,
Maybe they
if
do.
you don't know these people, you know a Swedish person. You can identify a Swedish person just by looking at him, can't you not?
Maybe I don't know. I've seen one Swedish person in my life.
You don't know, but you assume that you can. Are they exactly genetically? No. Are they phenotypically similar to a Portuguese person, for example?
Okay, and so what?
Can you identify both these two peoples? For your definition of race, they would be two different races, would they not be? Not?
They could be. There could be genetic clusters within the
So
higher
there-
genetic cluster of white
humans
people.
then.
There may be local clusters, and there may be genes that are only present in France.
There's no local clusters.
Yeah,
That is
because human genetics is embedded.
genetic.
So when we say there's black people, we don't mean that all black peoples are clones of each other. We recognize that within races, there are other levels of variability, which can also be called races or sub-races, all you want. I've already said it in my Multi Buddha video. The number of races is arbitrary.
Then you're saying the taxonomy is wrong, basically.
No. I'm saying
No,
that
yes,
the
you are,
words
yes, you are.
that we use for taxonomy will obfuscate a part of the genetic diversity.
Oh, so
Of
you're
course, there is
denying-
diversity
1 second.
within the race.
Hey, sorry, JF. May you finish what you were saying about what you said in the Maldi Buddha video, and then Carlos, you can respond to that.
All right. So in the Mati Buddha video, I say that you can define races arbitrarily. You can say the human species is divided into 5 races, or you can say it's divided into 600 races. All it's going to do is it's going to point toward more and more local areas of variability and more restricted sets of population. The statement of race realism is not that there is 4 races. It's that the human population is divided into non-random, non-homogeneous groups of genes. Genes are more of a certain way in Africa, and more of a certain way in Asia, and more of a certain way in Western Europe.
They're just generalizations.
I just want to tell the audience, sorry, Carlos, before you answer that, to the audience, the articles that JF has sent out, I have put them down there. So you could hit refresh, I suppose, and then it will show you those 3 articles. I have them in order.
But anyways, you started this whole thing by coming here and saying,
yes, I'm saying, but there isn't, because
races.
still,
So you must have some statement of me on the public space that I've made and which was wrong. What is it?
Here. It's called the Human Genome Project. You've heard of it? I participated in it. Exactly.
So what you just posted on the link is an article by the American Association of Physical Anthropologists. It's a pile of crap. It's by people who don't understand genetics. It contains many misleading statements, which mislead people like you. And it contains also factual errors.
Oh, okay. So they have factual. The Human Genome Project has a factual error. I'll put another link then. Maybe this one.
Let me explain why they have a factual error.
No, in fact, I'll post all the links I have. So I think it'll be much easier. So you can have a look. There we go. I've done them here. Here you go. These are all
these links. Now, are you going to explain to us how does the human genetic variability not respect your definition of a subdivision of a species?
Because we are the subdivision of the species. We are it. We are one race. You can't divide a subdivision, a subspecies lower than that, unless you go to creationism.
Do you
Then you can do
understand
whatever you
that
want.
subdivisions can be divided into further subdivisions?
Okay, so why is not anywhere you can find anywhere Homo sapiens sapiens Caucasiotus, for example? Tell me. Why isn't
Because
that
biologists have not been interested in labeling
the biologists have not
subdivisions
been
of
interested.
humans. But the articles I've sent up there by Rosenberg clearly show
Okay,
that
you've showed one.
clustered.
You've posted one article. I've posted you how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Are we seriously counting the articles right now? If you cannot make a point about why is it that we could not, Carlos, you need to express to me in English, why is it that we cannot divide subdivisions further? I don't care about what biologists do and how they name stuff. You have to explain to me what from reality do you withdraw that explains to me why we should not divide the races of human into further subdivisions.
We have them already. They're called ethnic groups.
Okay. Now, do you recognize that what you call ethnic groups, they're differ genetically?
No, in Portugal, we have from the south to the north about 4 or 5 different types of ethnic groups.
All right.
Now are they all different races? In Portugal, how lower do you want to do to divide the races? Do you want to go to the in atomic field or physics? Do you want to go to the nuons, gluons, and so on? Do you want to divide them until there is nothing else to divide? Until there's the individual? Do you want to divide them to the individual level? I can go there.
How do you define an ethnic group?
An ethnic group it's both genetic and cultural, but it's both mostly genetic.
Okay, so your ethnic group definition includes what I would call a race. So every time you hear me on the public space say race, just change the word in your mind for ethnic.
Why not forma, for example?
What's forma?
Form. That's from botany, a lower classification or variety. You know, for example, dogs. You have dogs is a subspecies of the wolf. Canis lupus familiaris. Why don't you have the variety like the German Shepherd, like the Chihuahua?
You know what, Carlos?
Like
you just convinced me.
Dane.
You just convinced me. I'm never going to use the word race again. I'm using forma. Last year, I fucked an Asian forma woman.
No, but that's botany.
No, I'm telling you that I had sex. I'm telling you that I had sex with an Asian forma.
Fine, that's a word.
Do you prefer that to race?
It's not a race. But it's still not a race. What Asian did you have? Did you have Chinese? Of the 5,000 ethnic groups in China, did you have the
she was a Chinese forma from the Asian forma.
Now, was it a Han? Okay, was it a Han? Was it a Uyghur? Was it Tibetan? Was it a I can't.
Carlos, I fucked this woman and I didn't even get that deep.
But you just said Asian. What Asian? Was it you said from China, but also there's Chinese that are not. Chinese is a country. China's a country. It's not a race or an ethnic group.
Okay, she was of the Asian forma. I'm going to stop there.
Okay, but we're from there. But Asian is a broad problem. It's not a forma. You're laughing, but I'm laughing as well, man. Seriously.
Okay. So we changed the word race for forma. Now you're telling me that your forma concept will not include Asians. So let's say I saw a woman with eyes like this, and she had yellow skin. What's the name of that forma, Carlos?
She has yellow skin.
She had yellow skin.
Was kind of talking Chinese. She had possibly malaria or liver disease.
She had liver disease.
Yeah, if you have liver disease,
she seemed to be doing good, Carlos.
Yeah, but the yellow skin is not a color of skin.
The yellow skin is not a color of skin.
No, I've only seen people who suffer from hepatitis or other liver diseases having yellow skin.
Okay. but I tested her liver and it was okay.
Okay,
How
but
could
it
I
wasn't
call this
yellow
forma?
skin. Now, the Northern Asians, and I'll use your broad definition, Asians from the Asian.
Thanks for
continent.
using my language to facilitate stuff.
Exactly, but from the geographical subcontinent of Asia, the northern, closer to the poles, they are actually as light-skinned as you are, or me. But
Really?
then you get to the sun, you get closer to the equator, and their skin sort of gets on a bit more melanin-y. They get more melanin there. Haven't you seen the Filipinos? Haven't you seen the Indonesians? Haven't you seen the Malaysians, for example?
Carlos, you're making my case.
Or are they not Asians?
You're making my case very well, Carlos. Are you saying
there are no races?
That
Yes, I am
people
better
differ
than no
genetically
races.
across this globe?
But that's just because of skin color. I've posted a link there that was made last year using that show that the MFSD17 gene, the OCA2 gene, the HERC2 genes, every human has it. Yet, depending on the geographical position that they are inhabiting, they are expressed either on or off. For example,
Carlos.
the Australian Aborigines, if you test them genetically, they do not have, they have Neanderthal and Denisovan DNA in them, right? So they are not African, yet they are dark. The Southern Indians from Tamil, they are also not African, yet they have Denisovan to some extent, but they have Neanderthal to some extent, yet they are dark-skinned. Now, how do you explain that? Because that's the variation of our subspecies. It's all there. Statistically, if you want to go there, it is insignificant. It is because of geographical. And is also, if they evolved in that area, there are many variabilities to explore.
So you were talking about these people's skin color. You're telling me you observe a skin color difference, but then you said it's not statistically significant. So your eyes are better than science, Carlos?
The genes are not statistically different, significantly different.
All right, well,
different.
Here's a mapping of the genes of humans. I'm sending the link in the side chat. You will see.
I have one better than Rosenberg, by the way.
You have what? Sorry?
I have a better link of genetic. I have all genetic variations of humans, much more extensive than Rosenberg.
Okay, so it's more extensive than Rosenberg. Yes. And did they find that every single human has the same exact amount of gene in a super random way? Or have they found that people differ across this globe genetically?
The difference is still within statistically human species, subspecies.
You're lying there.
No, I don't lie. I don't lie.
Yeah, you're lying because you're bringing this to the subspecies question. This was not my question. My question is, do people differ genetically across this globe? According to you?
Because humans are a subspecies.
It's not because humans are a subspecies. You have a severe misunderstanding. It's not because humans are a subspecies. I'm asking you, are humans different across this globe? And are groups of humans more similar to each other genetically across this globe?
There is more genetic variation in Portugal than in all of humans.
All right. I'm not interested about this. I'm asking you.
Well, you're not interested because
I'm not asking about variation. I'm asking, are there genes that are solely found in people who have ancestry in Africa recently?
Recently, define recently.
So 500 years ago.
No.
So when these people in the US, they make their DNA test, and the DNA test can provide them information such as your ancestors came from South Africa, they are getting lied to?
South Africa. No, you were going from the USA to Africa. You went from Africa.
I'm
to
telling you,
USA.
Carlos, in the US, there are currently companies offering services to Black people so they can trace back their ancestry to a part of Africa. Are they lying?
They're not accurate.
They're not accurate. So you don't accept the results of Rosenberg that certain genes are found particularly in Africa, certain genes are found particularly in Asia.
For what?
Genes, just SNPs. Some of them we don't even know what they do.
Genes do not just the genes do not make you a race. If you go to
having different genes doesn't make you a race.
I'll tell you why your premise is wrong. Because firstly, there is not zero genetic study dedicated to finding differences in humans published at the moment. You guys are cherry picking studies from totally different premises, hypotheses, right? Hypothesis to you are cherry picking them. I have actually one study that was made directly to find differences between of humans. That is the skin color, right? I'll try and find it. It's one of these. That was made to find difference genetic particular. It was basically see how the races differ. They found no difference.
Okay. So what you stated there is false. We are constantly looking at genes, how they differ across population. Now, these
we are, but not direct. Okay, can you speak? Sorry, I apologize.
So here is a study where we looked at the GWAS studies on intelligence, and we find that different populations have different frequencies of certain DNA mutations, and that this is correlated to intelligence. Here's another study.
No. There's no. Intelligence is a blank slate.
Sir, are you trolling?
No, I'm not. And I'll give you
Intelligence
an example.
Is a blank slate?
I'll give you I'll give you an anecdotal example. It's anecdotal.
You're going to give me an anecdotal example in answer to a study made on 60,000 people?
And they found what? That Nigerians actually outperform whites and in the United States colleges?
You're using bias samples. Black people
so I'm using bias samples. You don't accept. Look, I posted just my last one from Science Daily, an actual study on race, trying to find race.
Hey, Carlos, do you recognize that a Down syndrome kid will not be as intelligent as me?
Disease. That is a disease. Don't bring diseases into normal, healthy people. That is totally not acceptable. That is wrong. That
Carlos,
is deflecting.
A lot of people in the chat, the main complaint is no worries. People are saying like this is a troll. Are you trolling?
I'm not trolling. No, I'm not trolling.
The way you said blank slate, you're either a troll or you're a po.
I'm not even neither. That's not an argument. That is not an argument.
You said that human intelligence was a blank slate.
It is.
But you recognize that there are some genetic changes, such as Down syndrome, that can make you less intelligent.
An actual genetic defect does not make you, is not a normal thing. How can you, seriously?
But Carlos, you who knows evolution, you should know that genetic defect is not so different than genetic mutations, right? And there are mutations in the human population. Do you claim that there is not a single mutation in genetics in the human population that can impact your brain?
It can make you Down syndrome suffer, sure.
Okay. What about other things? Do you think that it's impossible for a mutation to influence your brain?
On a whole human scale, yes, we had one.
Okay, so you recognize that genetic mutations...
We had one 120,000 years ago, for example. Okay. We had a genetic mutation in our brain, and we had one
Now-
even before that. We had one.
I'm
The
showing you
first
another
genetic.
study.
I'll show you. We had our first brain enhancing genetic mutation 2 million years ago, when, or even further, 2.3 million years, when Homo habilis started eating meat. Then Homo erectus, about 1.3, 1.8 million years ago, started cooking meat. Do you know what happened then? The brain started enlarging.
Wow.
That is what
That's a
it
good
called.
one, Carlos.
Oh, really? That is a good one.
Oh, yeah,
So
you're
what is
making
your
my
argument?
case for me. So now you've
Of?
recognized that there were human mutations that can lead to differences in brains.
Yes, but between species, not within species.
Why would it happen between species and not within species?
Oh, so you want me to explain to you why would it happen between species and not within species? Well, because they're
Yep.
totally different species.
So you think that genetic mutations occur only when you switch species?
You don't switch species. That is
What do you do?
that is creationism speaking there. How can you switch species? You evolved. You know that we are what a creationist would say a missing link. We are continuously evolving. There is
Okay.
no unbroken, more or less unbroken. But it's not what you think. It's not many people think how evolution occurs. Evolution is not linear.
Is evolution currently happening in human societies?
Human species, it is. I won't go
Okay.
into societies because that does not influence biology at all.
So you recognize there is natural selection in human societies currently, in the human species, as you like to say it.
You could say in species, yeah, there's still natural selection occurring. Yes.
Do you think that intelligence is a factor that could be differentiately selected in principle in the human species in different situations?
That has occurred, and it
has
occurring.
occurred. Now, could it happen right now?
Let me finish. Once you get a group of people and you feed them well, and they better themselves, for example, feed them well, their natural intelligence will come up. Because humans are
Okay.
naturally intelligent creatures. That is why it is in our species name, sapiens.
So that's not what I'm asking. What I'm asking is, do you think that there could be differences in intelligence and that in principle, some environments may select for more intelligence while others would not?
No, you don't select for intelligence. Natural selection doesn't occur that way.
Natural selection cannot apply to intelligence, Carlos. Are you serious?
You should know how. You don't even have to put this question. You should know how natural selection occurs.
Yeah. How does it occur, Carlos?
It is basically the sexual. A group of people. It involves sexual selection mostly and cultural selection. There's a whole lot of things. Some people will not breed. Doesn't mean that you could have the more intelligent people not breeding. Can you accept that? And having
Absolutely.
the more stupid people breeding.
So you just recognize that in principle, intelligence could be subject to natural selection.
In fact, in the West it is, but in the East it is not. Oh, you're laughing.
I'm not laughing at you. This is the point I'm trying to make for 10 minutes. You just said it. Yes. You're saying that there are places that select for intelligence and others not? Is that your statement?
No, that is not my statement.
It was kind of your statement.
No, that is not my statement. Natural selection just gives only a little part of evolution, and you're trying to spread evolution out to an extent to create human races. That is still within the margins of our genetic variation. The most stupid person on Earth, the most intelligent person on Earth, is still Homo sapiens sapiens.
I didn't say they were not Homo sapiens sapiens.
No,
I said you can divide the group
further. Homo sapiens is one race. Homo sapiens neanderthalensis was another race. Homo sapiens denisovan was also another race of humans.
All right. Do you recognize that these races have subdivisions in how they are genetically diversified and genetically clustered?
They don't have any more subdivisions below that. No.
Okay. Well, I guess it's just your opinion. You have a high threshold
No,
for.
it is not. It is not my opinion. You just have to look at taxonomy. You just have to look at all the work that has been done since Carolus Linnaeus developed taxonomy. To see if you want to deny taxonomy to be false, mate, that's you, not me. That is
I take a shit on taxonomy, Carlos. Carlos,
okay,
I take taxonomy, I print it on a paper, and I use it as toilet paper. Do you realize that before you give a name to something, it exists? Do you realize that there's a reality out there before you see it? Do you realize that the world that you see out there exists without you?
Absolutely, yes. But that's what facts are.
Do you realize
taxonomy is a description of facts
together before you give a name to the species?
We've given names.
Yeah, but if you hadn't given name, the species would still be there.
But we still use the binomial system. We still use scientific classification. Are you saying that you want
classification of animals is arbitrary?
And plants,
we decide to do it, but the fact that we do it, the fact that we do it or not does not change the reality of these animals existing in the wild and having certain genes, and you can characterize these genes. It doesn't matter what name you give it. There are genetic clusters in human populations. You haven't provided anything that counters this.
Okay. Are there genetic clusters in say pan troglodytes?
I don't know about it, but I'm sure there is.
Oh, you don't know? You're a biologist. You've never heard of pan troglodytes, a PhD in biology.
I'm beginning to doubt. Chimpanzees.
I'm really beginning to doubt that because I learned most of biology at high school level. I did not improve that much at university. So honestly, if you don't know if you are doubting the taxonomical system of classification of life on Earth, mate, that's what creationists do.
I'm not doubting it, Carlos. I'm telling you, it doesn't matter if you give it a name.
Doubting. No, it doesn't. It does matter because if
there are thousands of species that we haven't given subdivisions to them, yet their genetic variants would justify a subdivision. We just didn't
name one. Name one.
I can give you the link to the alternative hypothesis website.
I don't go for unscientific sites. I'm sorry. I look up scientifically sound papers, for example, that have followed the scientific method. A scientific method, as you should know from biology, is reproducible.
This cites all sorts of reproducible stuff, so I will be happy to give you the link.
Really reproducible, and it's called alternative hypothesis.
The alternative hypothesis is a website that quotes peer-reviewed research, just like the one you like.
Yes, like the one I like, Harvard, by all the major universities.
This guy's a troll, Andy. This guy is a troll. Just, it's a troll. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Hey, Carlos.
No, Andy. Before I say
Carlos, look. Now, I hate to go, use the angle of, popularity or more people believe this than not, and then therefore that's right. However, literally everyone in the chat is yelling troll. There's not one person who's he makes a point there. So,
and that's not an argument either, Andy.
That's why I started. Hang on, that's why I started with. I hate to use the popularity argument or whatever, but legitimately, man, there's not one person who's on your side.
I don't care if they're on my side. I'm not looking at the chat. The links I've posted, you remove the Wikipedia of chimpanzees to show you how many subspecies of chimpanzees are, and there is no one ever that has called them races. You can't say that a small variation of skin color is a race. Seriously.
So do you just recognize that the chimpanzees were divided in subspecies? Is that it?
Yeah, yes, they are. Yes, but they're not races.
Well, I believe in subspecies in humans. I will change my word. We use pharma, it didn't work. I'm going to use subspecies. Now, what do you have to say about my view now?
What would you call, for example, a Welshman?
A Welshman?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Is
I'm
that
sorry. Someone in the chat said I lied. Hang on. There's one person who agrees with you in the chat. I apologize.
I don't care. I'm not looking at chat. Anyway, how would you classify a Welshman then? Tell me. Homo what?
Every single Welshman is the result of a unique story. So they're going to have genes from all sorts of countries, and they might even have genes from Africa. Because every single human is the convergence of millions of ancestors within the last thousands of years. And so there's not a single Welshman that I can categorize the way you want me to without knowing about his genes, without knowing in which clusters he fit, without knowing where he lays within the different clans in the human population.
So you'd call him John.
Okay, John.
Okay, John. Fine.
Okay, his name is John. I still don't have his DNA.
But do you need his DNA?
Yeah, I do need his DNA.
Why?
Or his self-identified race.
To identify him his self-identified race. Now that is.
So is John going around saying I'm white? I'm white?
No, he's just saying I'm a human.
Okay. Well, then I don't have enough information on John to take position.
If I look at that he's
John,
not a
will I
human.
conclude that he's Asian?
But he's not a human then.
No, he would be a human Asian.
A human what? A Welshman.
Human Asian.
And how would you get that information?
If I was to look at him and he has the facial features of an Asian, I will make the call and say, John, you're an Asian.
And but that's not race, as you defined it in the Mouthy Buddha video.
Yeah, in the Mouthy Buddha video, I say
no. You're going to such minutia in subdividing. Asian is a broad term. Pakistani in England is called an Asian. So how would you know? How would you identify a Pakistani from a? And in fact, in Pakistan, there are a lot of subdivisions. You can go even there from a Vietnamese, which there are a hell of a lot of subdivisions as well. There are even hunter-gatherers there. Now, how would you classify them broadly?
I don't have to. But if I had to, I would need his genes, or I would need reports from where his ancestry come from, if he knows. And from there, we could make inferences about the percentage of ancestors that come from a place and the percentage of ancestors that come from another place.
From another place? How far back?
Well, it's a good question. How far back are the markers that we find? Generally, we do find information in the human genome. Some of it indicate very recent ancestry. Some of it indicate evolutionary histories that go up to hundreds of thousands of years.
Hundreds of thousands of years?
Maybe 100,000 years at least.
I'm going to share this on screen. Here you go. How would you interpret that?
This looks like a figure of a haplogroup sequencing in various countries. This is my interpretation. Is that it?
And that is one race or hundreds of races?
You can divide them however you like. If you care about the red part, for example, you could say that there are two races. There's a group of humans that have very high red part, which is R1b. And then there's another section of human that has less than 50% of the red section.
Okay.
So you can divide this in two, or you can
R1B,
divide this in four, or you can divide this in 12.
I'll try and make this a little bit bigger. R1b includes Celtic, Basque, Italic, Frisian, Saxon.
All right. It does look from your map that there are subdivisions in the human species. There are subspecies.
No, it just says that they have markers, genetic markers. It has nothing to do with subspecies. They're genetic markers.
So what's a genetic marker, Carlos? Is that a phenotypically observable characteristic?
No, you don't. Observable, because if you look at the turkey, the turkey, the thing for the genetic markers in Turkey, they also have Celtic, Basque, Italic, Frisian, and Saxon.
Absolutely. So you just learned
Okay.
that the human population has mixed races.
No, they have mixed genetic markers.
Ah, so they have mixed subspecies. All right. I can
No,
use
they don't-
any word
no,
you
they
want,
don't have
Carlos.
mixed
The truth, we
subspecies.
see it right here in front
No,
of
they
us. The truth
have
is there.
mixed-
The simple fact that you talk about genetic markers, Carlos, confirms my view of human subspecies.
No, they are not. They are not subspecies.
So they are humans that differ genetically.
There are markers. They are not subspecies, because in fact you could have, like, for example, Celtic could have DNA from Neanderthals.
Okay.
So could a Basque, so could Italic, so could Frisian and Saxon and Germanic are Germanic.
I don't know what's your
you-
point there.
No, I'm just saying. No, my point is that these names are just small variations within the genetic material from geographical terms of the human subspecies, Homo sapiens sapiens.
All right. So there are small differences. You just acknowledged it. So what I
Yes, there
call
are small
subspecies,
differences, but
in
it does
humans
not
are
make a race.
differentiated by small
Does not make-
differences.
Yes, it does not make a race.
Okay, let's call it a subspecies.
Look at-
I'm a
look at
subspecies
this.
realist, Carlos.
Look at the G. There's a below J2 G, Caucasian. Is that a race? Is that a subspecies? Why isn't Celtic, Basque, Italic, Frisian, Saxon, Slavic, Krugen, Aryan, Greek, Near Eastern? Aren't they Caucasian? Why do you have here Caucasian, Atlantic, Georgian, Armenian, Mesopotamian? Really, are they all? They're just basically repeating subspecies of subspecies of subspecies of subspecies. In your idea, we are not
Yep.
atoms. We are not
We
atoms.
are not atoms.
Exactly. No.
We are atoms, Carlos.
Yeah. No, we are not. You can't.
We
you
are.
Can't, you,
What else are we, Carlos?
you cannot subdivide. I don't know. I'm not a physicist, so I don't know what the last subdivision that they've thought up yet, or they have.
It's the
found.
atom.
No, you have
And then
gluons that are subatomic
quarks.
particles make up subatomic
Yes, quarks.
particles make up atoms. For example, bosons, quarks, muons. They are the lowest subdivision. Subspecies is the same.
Yes, you are right. Subspecies can be further divided into further subspecies.
No, you can't, because you can't possibly. No. Whether you accept it or not, that's your problem. The facts are there that you cannot. It is
The
independent.
facts are
of
there
you.
right here in front of us. You are sharing it on screen, Carlos. I think we're going to move to the super
your
chat, Sandy.
interpretation. Your
Yeah.
interpretation, not even my
Carlos,
interpretation.
it would be impossible to even have this graph if there were no human subspecies. Do you see the red, Carlos? Do you see how hugely separated it is from the eastern countries?
So you're saying that Russian and Portuguese are subspecies?
If you want. Anything,
So
any
there's no
group
such
you can
thing-
make
so there's
based
no
on
such
these
thing.
images is a
You-
subspecies.
So you're basically saying there is no such thing as the white race, because you're saying that there's the Russian race.
Hey, just give me.
Or the
you,
Portuguese
you-
race.
you can define a race around Russia, and you could find some genes that are particularly present in Russia. It's not because
But they're
races are then mixed and that at the border of these countries there is race mixing that races don't exist anymore. In fact, the paper I sent you shows that there are serious stepwise separations in human population such that our genes are not continuous even in two countries that border each other and where there are different races. You can see the genetic clustering between these two countries, genetics are not spread homogeneously across the human population, and the image you showed proves that.
Proves that. Okay, I'll prove another one.
So, Andy, I think that we're gonna get to the super chat questions soon.